All right, welcome back to the 80 Star Basketball Channel, the only star basketball channel that is going to bring you Steve Taft, Dr. Beckett, Dave D, and me for an interview for perhaps the first recorded conversation ever today. I'm not going to be, this is not going to be live stream, but yeah, man, I am excited. Definitely am looking forward to this. And this video right here is a way to tell you what I'm going to be trying to convey and to try and explain and talk with Dr. Beckett about. And this is all stemming from the Darren Ravel. He did a interview, and Dave and him both were interviewed by Darren Ravel for the $925,000 sale, which Beckett had a couple of podcasts regarding it, and he says some things which I disagreed with. Mine was a response to him. I actually wasn't explaining why it's a rookie card, but that was my response to him, and basically focused on intent as kind of a new angle. I actually have a much bigger one that I will be discussing here, and it's just based. It's really going to be hopefully a lot of this. I'm just hoping that we kind of like stay on track and not devolve. I don't know how it's going to go today, but definitely trying to keep my expectations in check. If you're thinking that he's going to come out and he's going to change his mind on anything, that's not going to happen. So what I'm hoping that happens today is he just actually listens and hears, some things that, I think I'm going to be bringing a very different angle for talking about that, and I'm going to discuss that right here. In today's video right now. So I will put the video out as soon as I can. I haven't discussed with him. Like I will let him do his podcast first if he wants before I put something out. So I'm not quite sure how it's going to come out, but we're meeting at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm guessing it's going to go about an hour, but I'm not sure. We'll find out. Maybe it goes an hour and a half. Who knows? But that's what I'll be talking with. So here's what I'm going to be talking about today. And first off, we're going to be discussing the XRC, the Michael Jordan rookie card. And we're going to be talking about the classifications of XRC and RC that he denoted in 1990 of March in his Beckett magazine. And we will discuss. He explains his reasoning, and I've actually gone and listened to his other podcasts and his reasoning for it. So I've listened to 4 podcasts of his now, basically discussing what his rationale was for making these distinctions and what he was looking at. As I kind of got further, I pulled some quotes out, so I'm going to be talking about some quotes that he says, and definitely things that were puzzling, and kind of go into reasoning. So first off, for people who don't know and are listening to this channel, me for the first time, I'm going to quickly sum up. All my nostalgia is in Fleer, and I grew up buying packs, 88 Fleer, bought packs of 86 Fleer, all that stuff. So my nostalgia actually is I kind of grew up. I didn't care, it's just he put it out in the rookie card, but I was really just kid buying packs and having fun in the hobby. And later on in life, I basically got. I about a year ago, little over a year ago now, I had an 86 Fleer, and I simply looked at it and turned it around and said, you know what? The 2-year stats on the back, which I will discuss later, always bothered me. And I always knew that there was the star, and it was kind of like, that's the first year license card. That's the rookie card. It's simple. And it was even more because a little more, I'm going to say, I because of my background and training, I am a software engineer for 25 years, and I do data modeling with large databases, and classifications are, that's what I do. I deal with data and how it works within classifications. And when classifications are incorrect or wrong, they generally break data, or you have to engineer things. So you're generally kind of re-engineering or engineering around them constantly for things that don't work. And I looked at this and I just basically was like, this is kind of crystal clear. And I sold at my 86 Fleer Jordan, and I said, I'm going to get the Star 101. I didn't like that it's expensive, but I did it because I want to own just a Jordan rookie card. That's all I care about is owning a Jordan rookie card. I didn't buy it as an investment. I know that's a big thing. I obviously not throwing money away, but I really was secondary, very far secondary to me. And I just wanted to have this. So I essentially, kind of went from that point of view when I was buying mine. So I do own a 101. I actually own two of them. I plan on owning them as, to the day I die. I don't want to give them up. I love owning them. Would I trade them out for another one? That's the only thing that would happen. But they're definitely not for sale, and they won't be. And but then we want to get into, okay, I transitioned from there and I ended up making this channel because I really started enjoying the more I learned and more I researched about star cards. And the PSA thing, and I looked at it and I saw the news with PSA coming out and grading, basically kind of legitimizing them. And looking at Beckett's magazine cover, they're real, all these things. And I started watching social media and seeing all the people confused about the exact same thing. Like, this doesn't make any sense, this classification. And so I created this channel with that, and kind of came off and started doing some videos, and obviously received quite a bit of hate at first. And it's really funny that hate has subsided as everything kind of rockets up. And it's not that it's not, I'm not saying that to be arrogant, I'm right and everything. It's just that the funny thing is money really is the enforcement factor here, and I will get into that later as well. What's kind of interesting is this came up, I think it was yesterday. I got sent this link. This has 10.3 million followers, Wealth on Instagram, and they did this little video clip. You can check it out. Is on the rookie card, but they say it inside. It's the real Jordan rookie card. Things like this that have been happening, that it's just this train that's going right now with people's perception is changing. And that's actually all this is perception, and people that want to believe a certain card and whatnot. But it comes down to those classifications, and how do you view this perception? How do you change this perception? And there's multiple different ways, and I'll talk about those in a second. Okay, so let's dive into classifications. So classifying things in database, or just classifications in general, are tough. It's very, very hard. What he was trying to pull off by himself, and with really it's probably a small team, of course, help, but really he's the decider at the end of the day. He even denoted that he created the XRC classification. Is these classifications are very hard, and without imagine doing it without the internet, and in an information vacuum, and you've got to go out to card shows. Really, you're limited in what information you get. A lot of it's all word of mouth, and people who are in the industry, and dealers, mom and pops, but to the companies. His information was essentially from industry, for whether it be the card companies or dealers. So classifications are so hard. And one of the things about them is that you have to be flexible when you make them. If you make them too rigid, over time they will break and they will cause problems. So you need to allow classifications when you're going in to model something, or make a classification. It needs to be open enough and flexible enough, but at the same time, classify things. So a classification is basically just trying to kind of create a usable way to describe shared characteristics, and to create a usability of data usability of data to help with clarity. So that's the point of classifying, is to try and lump these things in together because they have shared characteristics. So when you're modeling things out, again, if it doesn't work, you end up having to re-engineer, or change your application to either fit the data. But if the class, or change the classification because it's not working and it's just not fitting. And generally, that's because you've made it too rigid. You've made it so it's this complete, but it has to be done in a way that is flexible. So part of, on the what you want a classification, really a classification is only helpful if it's usable. It really is. A classification is only good as its usability. That's kind of what it comes down to. And part of that is of that usability is enforcement, and he talks to that quite a bit, and I'll talk to that in a second. You know, what's a little interesting on this is I think that it's kind of like if you came up to me and said, "Hey, I think that all rookie cards should have blue borders," and I can't be comfortable with anything that's not a blue bordered rookie card. I will simply say, "Oh, I disagree," and enjoy your card. So one thing about before I kind of get going here is that if you actually, if it comes down to where you can't do it, I know Cajun Cardboard is one thing that he says. He's like, what, I need my card pack pulled, and I'm not comfortable otherwise if it's not. And it's like, he's like, I don't really have much of a reason. I gravitated towards, 86 Fleer, and I like my cards pack pulled, and that's what I'm comfortable with. And I'm okay. I disagree with the assessment of that. He's not saying what a rookie card is. He's kind of saying, I just feel comfortable with this being a rookie card. Oh, okay. I disagree, and enjoy. Do what you're comfortable with. So the classification almost doesn't even have to play in. It's just kind of a way to help kind of guide and do it. So with that being said, you could even do all this without classifications. And there is a very strong argument to be made that, and he did this for a while, Beckett did this for a while, there were no classifications. There were no RCs and XRCs. There was nothing. It's just basically listing things out. That creates a different set of pros and cons, and it's kind of, he found the value of trying to help. He thought it was more helpful to do this, to create these classifications, and it also gave kind of a leverage in steering the hobby. He has said straight out that he was trying to be the voice of the hobby. So that was part of this, but he's really trying to do it in a helpful way. So with that being all said, I'm going to say where I'm going to agree with him. Where I'm going to start out to him is that I'm saying, here's where I agree with you. I've listened to you. If you're saying that the end justifies the means, that having the 86 Fleer, it solved so many problems. It made so many people happy. It made it basically was a win-win-win for 99% of the hobby. And it really it just came down to kind of the crux of this. If the star card not being the rookie card, labeling that makes everything work, it was much more helpful. And he kind of implies this and talks about it and says, this is the reason. And he really throws weight behind the ends justify the means. If that is his case, it is debatable. Then it's debatable if you're just saying, well, that might be more the rookie card, but this is more helpful to the hobby. That's hard to argue, because putting smiles on kids' faces that they have more the rookie card is not a quantifiable thing. And actually you can say, okay, it makes a lot of sense. So I get that argument. I don't get to where in the actual classification. Unfortunately, it's just not the rookie card. So, and I'll get into the classifications in a second, but that being said, if it's not, it causes more problems. It starts to cause confusion, because the rationale behind the classifications and whatnot, a lot of people don't understand. And, when you're doing it and not understanding it, then the more that feeds upon itself, it bleeds into other areas and other cards that, okay, well, it worked over here, but it doesn't work over here. And it's kind of like, well, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We're focused right here. And it's like, you can't have different rules jumping from place to place. And as I'm listening to his podcast, it starts out, he's saying he is frustrated that, he said at the time, he said, when I made the rules, I would give them the rules, and the card companies would try and bend them. And I would say to myself, well, that was your first clue that this classification isn't going to work. They're not bending it. At the end of the day, they're actually the more powerful entity. If card manufacturers went out of business, there would be no more hobby. if a magazine, a media magazine goes out of business, the hobby will go on. So you making the rules and giving it to them is backwards. They make the rules, actually. That's what that little rookie stamp is. It is self enforcement, which you talk about yourself, and I will talk about in just a minute here. Self enforcement, that rookie card, little stamp on a card, is the hobby knows when they see that that's a rookie card. And you saying it's not, which you actually disagree with. Parallels, on some of them on base cards, but parallels, you say parallels, and all these other cards that the hobby considers rookies are not. You've expressed your frustration that it doesn't fit into this, and you would like people to go back to a more traditional, which is your way of saying my definition, your definition of the rookie card. Well, your definition of the rookie card didn't work. It would simply be trying to recreate, you would simply recreate the problem. It's not going to fit. The classifications, and especially here with the Jordan card, it gets into the things that you also talk about are you have to be in the know. And what you meant by that is essentially you have to write a book of all these things you have to know in order to consider what is a rookie card. That doesn't work either because it all ends up being in your head. It's not possible to follow. So you're talking about your frustration, or Beckett's talking about his frustrations, and why it's happening, and it's simple. Well, that's the usability, right? It's not going to work because you've structured it in a way that it's going to break very quickly with the evolution of what card companies are going to do. All industries evolve. So this industry is trying to evolve and make new products. That is what industries do. Your classifications say almost, well, it can, but it's not going to go into my rules. Well, the card company isn't going to have to follow your rules. There's no enforcement there. The internet simply, obviously, changed how your business was done and what people could go on and get at 130 point. People don't use Beckett for pricing anymore. They use what's real time. And so that was replaced, just as I said before. Card companies are the real power here. And if they say it, then it's simply you against them, kind of. Who is right? And they win. And what's funny, and I will go into this and transfer it now, is all evidence points to the Star 101 being the rookie card. It simply does. Even if you take away classifications. Now, this is huge. So really it comes down to first, and I will give 4 points here for even if you didn't classify it, self-enforcement would make the chase card the first card, because that's kind of what we're boiling it down to. What's the first license card that's like, I don't even know. The first license card that's nationally distributed. That's what I think most people go with. They don't follow distribution. Distribution is a clearly small weighing factor. To some, if it's everything to you that someone needed to open up a pack, and again, I disagree, and go for it. So yes, I mean, part of that is just a comfortability factor with you. If you have to have it like that, then have at it. I want you more comfortable and enjoying your cards, and that's the way it should be. It's a hobby, right? But so let's talk classifications. If you took away all classifications, all evidence points to it being a rookie. First off, just in the English language, the definition of rookie, this was made for his rookie year. Look up at the Star 85. There you go. That's your first thing. That's smaller, but it's kind of huge. Just the standard definition of rookie. The second, if there was no price guide that put a classification out, the biggest place that you could check, or the first, and this one's huge, is the NBA. This is the NBA's licensed trading cards. If you go up to the NBA and say, what is your first base licensed trading card? They will say the Star 101 is. That is the first team card from a base set that's licensed by the NBA. There isn't a thing about packs and distribution. There's nothing said. Matter of fact, the stamp of approval was how they distribute it. The NBA was obviously fine with the way the distribution method was and everything. So if you go to just the straight, what actually really is the final enforcement is the MBA license. The MBA license is here. It is the MBA's first official trading card. So, third, self enforcement without needing a price guide, no classifications in some type of guide, is self enforcement. Again, and these are all kind of what self enforcement is, but there's 2 years of Beckett says if you look at the card and you can find a defining element on the card that lets you know that this is kind of a rookie, look at the card. What about it shows? Well, the 86 Fleer has the anti, it has 2 years of stats on the back. That's the first kind of, this is not a rookie card. That says that immediately. Go look at the star, turn it around. It is collegiate. That is the last, and that was the last stats on it. So that self enforcement factor on the card is there, and in the stats. The fourth is a point in time reference. In 1985, if a price guide existed with no classifications in 85, it simply would have listed that card. It would have been the only licensed card from a base set in existence. There was nothing else. So those I'm going to kind of go quickly, because the reason I'm doing this now is I want to make sure everyone hears these now and before, and hopefully I get a chance to explain all this. But this is obviously a lot to say, but I do want to get this out there so you're hearing what's in my mind if I don't get to verbalize all this. But those 4 points, I'm going to stop there. Even if you didn't have the classifications, those things right there all point straight to the Star 101. There is nothing that points on the 86 Fleer. And he even said that, and that's he's trying to deconstruct the 101, and at the same time, which is the only thing that will construct the 86 Fleer. So getting back to classification, if we actually have the classification, the main reason this classification doesn't work is, put quite simply, it hasn't stood the test of time. His own frustration is reason it keeps not fitting what people are using as a rookie card. Well, that's actually kind of the exact definition. They're meant to be usable to group together. His characteristics that he used to define rookie cards aren't applicable. So if they haven't been applicable from the entire time, he even said at the time he made them, they weren't applicable because the companies kept trying to bend the rules. Okay, so if they come out with a classification, remember, it's only as good as its usability. And he came out and basically said, all right, I'm going to create this rookie card. And they came out and he said they bent the rules. I gave them the rules. They bent it. They try and created these tops traded sets. Well, I had to kind of make it so it's an XRC. Well, okay, so even at the time, it didn't really work. And by the way, it didn't work in the past because there's tobacco packs. There's all kinds of different distribution stuff previously. So it didn't work in the past, it didn't work in the present, and it's not working in the future. And he's basically saying all these parallels and stuff, they're not rookie cards. So here's his definition, the Beckett definition of a rookie card. It must come from a, kind of fully licensed, nationally distributed set that is primarily focused on the current major league players. It must be a base card and cannot be an insert parallel or redemption card. Well, that pretty much says any parallel 5 of 5 you have, it's not a rookie. And what's funny is some people don't want the Jordan 86 Fleer, but they don't agree with this. They pick and choose their definition for each kind of card and for all over the place. And you can't do that. I mean, if you're going to have a definition that's followed, then it's got to be followed everywhere. The other thing is I find it funny that it just simply sums up nationally distributed set. The Star was a nationally distributed set. And I'm actually going to, say that in full force today. You could do mail order from anywhere in the country and get your cards. A card shop could call up Star Company, get, from anywhere in the country and get it. They tried to sell them. No one wanted them. That was the main problem but they were trying to sell to everyone. everywhere any way they could. It wasn't like a thing they were holding them, someplace to not. They definitely ended up with excess product because no one was simply after these, but it was nationally distributed. So this actually meets Beckett's requirements, the Beckett definition of a rookie card. But what's funny is if you ask or hear people talk about it, all of a sudden when it comes to this XRC Jordan rookie card debate, they all of a sudden, well, they bring up all these new rules of distribution and how it's supposed to be and how this isn't nationally distributed. Nope. Again, it doesn't matter if it's FedEx, UPS, or the delivery system isn't the focus here. It isn't the printers that are used. Beckett, the other thing is he starts going into things that he calls in the know. Like he started saying, well, they had different types of Star had different types of printers than Tops had, and it's like, so what? That's not quantifiable. He starts getting into a lot of things that aren't quantifiable, which I want to say are in the know, the way he's saying it. And you have to be able to quantify these things in order for people to follow it. To use a classification, it must be usable. The fact that he's saying no one's using my classification, well, again, that's kind of it, or saying that people keep breaking his rules. They're not the hobby, they're not the rules. The enforcement factor to make it usable for these classifications really are going to come down to the card companies. So, kind of to get to a summation here is if I can't use it, if there's no usability to it, if it's not working at any time, I guess it comes down to why would I use a classification that doesn't have any enforcement? It doesn't fit any time period really, and it's strictly too rigid, and it won't allow it won't work in the future. Now, what is the future now to him in 1990 when he came out with the Beckett magazine? But for now, even the future, you don't know that things will be pack pulled. You don't know things will be distributed a certain way. Distribution, I listened to your podcast and you basically say they're both rookie cards. Just this one, they both have something wrong with it, and the only thing you selected out was distribution on Star, and then you said, well, tie goes to the pack pulled, and I'm thinking, what? It's the only reason you said this was a flaw. You're basically saying the only weighing factor is distribution. And I think, and what we're seeing is it's looking like 2/3 of the hobby is disagreeing with that, going, wait a minute, no, the fact that it's the rookie year is the weighing factor. Like that should be the tie breaker if distribution is important to you, which it isn't to so many people, which is the credibility. So again, all these factors, I'm going to kind of sum and tie this up, and hopefully I get to say these things today. I really hope, but essentially it just comes down to this classification from a modeling perspective. You couldn't have modeled it this way. You couldn't have had this many unquantifiable rules that wouldn't fit really any time period. And it has no enforcement. It negates the usability of the classification. So, it doesn't make much sense to adhere to it when there's just too many logical holes, and there's just self-enforcement factor is fully on the 101 side. Anyway, I will try and say all that again today. I'm super excited. I hope you enjoyed my rant here, if you stuck around this long, and would love to hear your comments. And we'll see how it goes, and I will get something out as soon as I can. Please, for as many DMs I got last night, thank you for the good luck and all that fun stuff. But let me put something out, because it's going to be a lot of explanation. So I'll go ahead and tell people what's up as soon as I can. So like, subscribe, and let's go.